You may be shocked to learn what brand new trainees encounter as they begin their journeys into pro wrestling. I surveyed the greenest of the greenhorns, and I'm going to tell you exactly what they had to say next. I'm Mike Quackenbush, and this is Till We Make It. Throughout my career, I've been very fortunate because I've worked in front of the cameras as a pro wrestler, referee, ring announcer, and commentator. And I've also worked behind the scenes in wrestling as a promoter, booker, agent, coach, and consultant. And I bring the sum total of all my experience across 4 different decades now, and I serve it up right here to you on Till We Make It. If you're down with that, then what are you waiting for? Go ahead and join the Till We Make It tribe. Subscribe right now. I want to shout out my 2 newest patrons, so welcome aboard, Harrison and Nate. I'm glad to have you. And it could be you that I'm shouting out in next week's Till We Make It. Jump on the link that is down below in the descriptus and come join our community over on Patreon. When you do, you are helping me on my way to my goal of reaching 100 patrons this year. So if helping to keep Till We Make It a weekly YouTube channel is important to you, don't wait. Jump on that link and then we'll see you over on Patreon. If you're thinking of enrolling for pro wrestling training, then I want to give you the inside track on what to expect in today's video. I asked a bunch of brand new trainees what they were shocked by, what they were challenged by, what they were caught unprepared for as they began their journeys into pro wrestling. And some of the responses actually surprised me. Not so much number 4, I was expecting that one, but a bunch of the other ones, especially the way they were put to me, really did take me by surprise. And I figured if I gleaned some insight from this, that you might too. So let's dive in. The single thing new trainees said challenged them the most about learning the art of professional wrestling was discovering that all the grips and the footwork, in other words, where your hands and where your feet go, are different for every single move, for every single stance, for everything that you learn in professional wrestling. And those grips and that footwork, they're essential. They have to be exactly right. And that's true. The way that your feet are positioned for a collar and elbow tie-up are completely different from the way they're going to be positioned when you snatch a side headlock. And that's going to be completely different from the way you base for a satellite head scissor. The footwork and the grips, they're essential to get right. And for many, that can be quite challenging. But to overcome that challenge, you've got to develop a keen attention to detail. A second facet of pro wrestling that new trainees told me took them by surprise was discovering that wrestling requires you to become a good dance partner. That's because pro wrestling is not a solo pursuit. It's not something that you can make alone. So you're going to have to develop chemistry with everyone that you share the ring with. And you're going to have to do this over and over again, including with people you just met moments before. So prepare for the fact that socially, wrestling is going to force you out of your shell. And you might come into pro wrestling as an introvert, but if you expect to last, get ready for the fact that you're going to have to explore the role of an extrovert. Are you enjoying today's video? Are you getting something out of this? Then do me a quick favor. Give me just 1 second and 1 tap of your finger and leave a like-a-palooza on today's video. It really does help the channel to continue to grow. Thanks for doing that. The next one I heard seems closely related to the last one that we discussed. It's this. Many new trainees find it quite challenging to constantly have to both anticipate and then compensate for what their opponent is doing in the ring when all of these calculations and micro adjustments need to occur in 1 second or less in order to keep everybody safe and to keep the illusion of conflict alive. You can't be solely focused on your own footwork or what it is that you want to be doing next. You have to be attentive to all of these details in your opponent, and you're going to constantly anticipate and then compensate for what it is that they seem to be doing. There is a natural give and take to professional wrestling. There's a cadence to that, but discovering it can be quite challenging, especially in your earliest days as a trainee. But ultimately, what you do in practice is what will come out during the show. So get the reps in. Don't shy away from exploring this. The sooner you get better at it, the smoother your matches will appear to the audience. This fourth one is the one I would have predicted would have been number one on the list, but it was only the fourth most mentioned by the people that I surveyed. It is this: no amount of exercise can prepare your body for what it will go through in the ring. Pro wrestling is unique in the way it punishes your body. And there's just no two ways about it. Usually it takes people 6 to 8 weeks for their bodies to adjust to the rigors of the ring. And there's nothing you can do in advance of starting your pro wrestling training to warm your body up for this. There just isn't. But what you can do is prepare for how that soreness will impact the rest of your week. So for example, if you're going to be training every Monday night, then be prepared for the fact that you might still be sore come Wednesday. And if you work a job that requires you to do manual labor, maybe you intend to be in the gym every single day that you aren't at wrestling training, account for the fact that you might really be struggling to get out of bed the day after you start training. And that might last for weeks until your body acclimates. So strategize. Imagine a plan for yourself that includes self-care and recovery, and give yourself a little bit of a grace period as your body finally adjusts to the rigors of the wrestling ring. I must admit, I've never heard this fifth one put quite this way before, and yet it's entirely valid. One person who I asked to tell me what they found most surprising about pro wrestling training said this: that pleasing yourself at practice is a bottom priority. The people you have to please are your coach first, and everybody else in class second. And only after all of that can wrestling be fun for you. Why? Because if the other people in your class don't like the way that you are working, no one's going to partner with you for exercises or drills. And if your coach isn't satisfied with the work that you are doing, you will never advance. Did any of these take you by surprise? I want to know. Let me know down below in the comments. And especially if you happen to have just started training for professional wrestling, I want to hear from you. What caught you unprepared? What were you really shocked by once you began your training in the ring? I want to hear from you right now down below in the comments. Appearing on screen right now is my playlist that is all about year one of your pro wrestling training. Click on that and you can keep on learning right now. Also appearing on screen is a link which will take you directly to my Patreon. We would love to have you join our community.